squeeze to the side.
Welcome everybody to El Porto Surf Shop. El Porto, Los Angeles, California. It's May 12th, 2026. And it is live story night here in El Porto Surf Shop. Road journals, 48 states, one ride. And I want to welcome everybody here. It's great to see everybody, so many familiar faces. And, you know, it might surprise you to see me up here talking to you like this with maybe the lights or the guitar, the harmonica, the microphone, what have you. But, you know, I need to tell you what's surprising for me is being here, staying in one place so long to make it my home, surfing every day, living at the beach. These are all things I never intended for my life. And if y'all let me, I'd like to tell you the story of how I got here. And thanks, yeah. And I don't just mean how I wound up in El Porto. I mean how I wound up here in front of you right now, just like this, with this microphone, this guitar, this harmonica, this book, doing this thing that is a little bit actually more normal for me than, say, like running a shop or even surfing or living at the beach. All those things are things I didn't expect, and they all came about almost by accident, by the things I was intending and working toward not working out. And so this story begins 20 years ago this summer. It begins back in Austin, Texas, when I sold my national championship ring and bought a used motorcycle with a plan to drive around the country while learning how to ride it and working odd jobs to survive, to get through all 48 states, just to kind of, well, I'll tell you about it in just a second. Well, I started out going down a dirty road. Started out all alone. Now, I should tell you how I even wound up with a national championship ring, how I wound up as a member of a national championship college baseball team, because that wasn't anything I'd intended on either. I actually started out as a wrestler. That was where I began. I was a wrestler. That was me, the captain of my wrestling team in high school. And I was working toward a state championship that going into the state tournament, I was ranked 8th in the state at 189 pounds, and I landed on my shoulder. I blew out that shoulder, and what I'd been planning on doing was to go into the Naval Academy. They recruited me to wrestle, and that's what I wanted to do. So I started off doing that, but when that happened, I ended up at the University of Texas on a Navy ROTC scholarship, and I was training with the intent of becoming a Navy SEAL. Most of my uncles were pilots, and growing up, that's what I had really wanted to do. I'd grown up a wrestler, and I actually kind of washed out of baseball because I was the best. I was drafted first in our league when I was 14 years old as a catcher, and it was the first year my dad wasn't coaching me. And my dad had divorced, had split up with my mom when I was 4 years old. My dad had moved to California, so I'd only see him a couple months a year. He'd come back for baseball season, and I was a very good baseball player until I was 14 years old. And then he wasn't there to coach me anymore. And the coach put tons of pressure on me as the first player in the draft. He was like really riding on me to carry the team. And I lost the ability to throw the ball back to the pitcher. I got the yips. And that was just kind of it for me in baseball. So I put everything into wrestling. And after I realized I couldn't do that in college, I went to the University of Texas on the ROTC scholarship and was working toward that. And if you ever do a program like that, you get a military ID and everything, and in the summertime you go train on the base in your uniform, the whole bit. So in the summertime between freshman and sophomore year. I was at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. It's a really cool program. So I spent a week on a nuclear submarine, like underwater, and then you spent a week at a Marine Corps base, like doing all the obstacle courses and training. They show you how to break down a rifle and all that stuff, and then you go through each like sector of the Navy and the military during the summer training. So I was there. We were on a base in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. They call that the armpit of North Carolina, by the way. It's like hot, super muggy, like tons of mosquitoes. We're out there like shining the floor and like trying not to get yelled at by a drill sergeant and that kind of situation. And then in the background of this barracks is the College World Series playing on TV and some other guys in the program. Hey, Landfair, you know those guys, right? And they just won the College World Series. It was the summer of '02. And I said, no, this is Texas. These guys are like professionals, They say, oh, yeah. And they all went to different schools, so they interacted with their athletes, and they said, well, why don't you go out there and you could probably practice with the team? You should go to a walk-on tryout. And so I liked that idea, and I was working on like a bucket list. After my shoulder thing, I got so depressed that while I was like hung up, I started writing like a big list, all these things I wanted to do in my life, And so I added that, like, I'm going to go say I played catch with some major leaguers. I'm going to go to that tryout. So summer training ended. I was waiting all summer for that tryout in the fall so I could call those guys from the Navy program and tell them how this went and stuff. And I was training for a marathon because I was on the list too, so I was in super good shape. So I knew I could maybe the tryout would be working out or something. But I knew I was just there to play catch with the guys. So the date rolls around. I had to fill out a big thing of paperwork. They just won the national championship. There are 50,000 people who go to the University of Texas. So I don't know how long that list is, and I'm thinking like, oh man, like, will I even get to try out? So I fill out the paperwork. They call the day before they say the tryout is, and they say, oh, we moved it. It's, was Monday at 1 p.m. Now it's 2 Thursdays from now at 4 p.m. And so then the day before that, I get another call from the baseball office. They moved it again. Now it's Wednesday at 3 p.m. And so the day finally rolls around. It's like the third time. And I show up, and I get there early, and I'm in the ROTC mode, so I'm like super punctual and super, clean cut, and I go finding the entrance. I can't find the entrance, so I'm like running around the stadium, and it's getting closer and closer. I mean, it must be a Tuesday, say 4 o'clock was the time. So I'm running around, and it's like starting to rain, it's gray, and then finally I find a groundskeeper entrance, the only one I find, and I sneak through and come out of the concourse out of the big AstroTurf stadium, and the only person I see out there is one guy out there in the rain in the middle of the center field. So I come running up to him like, oh, I must be late, I'm so sorry. And I'm here for the walk-on tryout. And he turns to me and goes, that ended 3 hours ago. Oh my God. and I felt so dumb. And that was Coach Garrido, and I say, who's like a legendary coach, and he just won his fourth national championship. He's like, real like Zen master type guy, and more of a philosopher, life coach, kind of a baseball guy. Anyway, so he says, and 3 hours ago. So I said, oh man, I'm so sorry, and I respectfully, this is my fault, and I didn't even come to practice. I came to play catch and to say I got to practice with some guys on the team. So I'm going to come to walk on tryout next year. I'm really, really sorry for bothering you, So I'm walking out the groundskeeper's entrance and all the way out, and then right as I'm out, I hear it and say, hey, come back Monday, noon. So I come back the following Monday, and I'm like ecstatic. I can't wait to tell everybody about my little time there. And I get there, the field again. I can't figure out how to get in. Again, I come through my little special way in the groundskeeper entrance. And so I go out in the field, and then I'm looking around for the coach. I can't find him. I see other people dressed head to foot, like full adults in Texas gear. So I'm thinking, oh, this guy must be important. I walk up to him. Hey, coach, I'm here. Coach Garrido told me to come and practice with the guys. What do I do? He said, Coach Garrido said that? He did. You sure? He's out of town. He didn't tell me. Why do you go, hey, that guy's really important. You go talk to him. So they send me over to another guy, full adult Texas head foot. I later find out this guy's the equipment manager. At the time, I thought he was like this assistant coach. And then that's what they're doing. They're sending me around from one guy to the other. And I walk around the whole facility thinking everybody is important. They don't tell me who's who or what, and they don't even know. Finally, one guy hears this going on, and he sees, and he's confused. And so he actually comes, and he walks up to the assistant coach and says, "Hey, Coach Carino told this guy to come out here and come practice with the guys. Where do you want him to go?" And so they sent me out on the field, and I have my first full practice with the team. And they don't really talk to me or like know what I'm doing there. And I'm wearing my high school uniform, and they're all wearing their. But I'm getting to do it, man. I'm getting to play catch with some guys that later made it to the major leagues. I knew their name, knew these guys. I was so stoked. And we finished practice. They let me do all the drills. Let me throw, let me hit, let me do all the everything. And then we finish, we break, put our hands in a circle, with horns, and then they all go into the clubhouse in the locker room, and I'm like, "Oh, I shouldn't go in there." And so I again leave through the groundskeeper entrance, and nobody says goodbye or what to do, and I'm like, "Well, I guess that was it." And I go back and call all these people from the program, and I tell them this, "Oh man, this is so great. And, yeah, that guy, I got to play catch with him, And then I call my dad, and I tell him the same stuff, and then he says, "Well, did they invite you back?" And I'm like, "Oh man, I don't want to tell him. I don't want to tell him." Like, of course not. These guys are like professionals. They don't need me, and they're just being nice. They didn't know. And then as I hang the phone, he said, "Well, did they tell you not to come back?" And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. And I hang the phone. And then I start remembering, I started thinking about it, this is a big school, man. What would be a really cool story? I just told all my Navy guys, what if I told them, it took 2 weeks for them to pull me aside and be like, "Dude, what? Come on. You're like, what are you doing here?" And so I decided, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this and just keep showing up until somebody hits me with a ton of bricks. And they're like, "Listen, pal, nobody wanted to have the heart, but you got to go." So that's my plan. And I go to the next practice, and then the next one, and the next one. And then they, after a week, they have one of the guys on the team announces, one of the captains, "We're at a team-only players meeting." And I'm thinking, "Oh, God, this is..." Do I go? Do I not go? And I'm saying, "All right, I have to go because I cannot go." And then they'll if they call me up, then that's it, And so I go, and the meeting's real serious, and they just won the national championship before, and these guys had turned down the draft, their offers to come back to try to win another one. And so they were lighting into the young guys and other guys for loafing it, and people who transferred in, "You don't know what this thing takes, man. You're riding our success for us," type thing. And I was like, "Oh, Lord, here I am." And so I thought I need to say something, and I was used to doing that sort of thing, in the RCC, standing up talking. So I was like, I'll say something. And so I introduced myself and said, "Hey guys, I don't know how I really wound up here." You guys know I wasn't recruited with you guys. I just wanted to practice with you guys, and I'm really enjoying it. And what I want is to say that I played catch and practice and worked out with some guys that made it to the major leagues and won a national championship, and I want that so badly. If I'm here, as long as I'm here, I don't know if they'll let me back in tomorrow, but if I'm here, count on me. I'll do drills with you. I'll do anything. I'm not here to take your time. I'm not trying to take your position. I just want you guys to win, so I can say I was here for however long you let me hang. And that meeting ended, and then two guys from the team, Houston Street, who became the American League Rookie of the Year in 2007, and another guy, Buck Cody, both pitchers, said, "Hey, we're going to take you out to dinner with us after that." And I was working as a bouncer at a nightclub. That's another bucket list thing. So they had to drop me off and then do it the next day, which is what they did. And then I had to quit that job because they said, "Hey, we're going to get you on the team, man." They said, "Listen, we got 37 guys. There's a 35-man roster. But I'm telling you, we got these two guys. Nobody likes them. And they just don't carry their weight, man. And we're going to get them cut. And we're going to tell Coach, you're the guy." And I was like, "You can do that, and then they're like, "Yeah, and we're going to walk in that bar over there 3 years from now. And you're gonna walk up, and we're gonna see the hottest chick in there. She's gonna be talking to some guy, and we're just gonna walk up with our national championship rings, and just go, 'Beat it, geek.'" That's what he said. I'll never forget it. It's such a stupid 23-year-old thing to say. But I remember that, obviously, quite clearly. Houston, if you're watching the live stream, man, what's up? Had to quote you on that. But then, so I kept going to practice, and then Coach Garrido came back, and he'd gotten hip surgery. So he was out for like 3 weeks. He'd gotten his hip reconstructed. He came back, and he didn't know I was there. But Buck had given me his old practice uniform from last year to match to everybody on the team. And they told me, you're going to share it. Buck said, you're going to share my locker. You're coming through this door. You're one of us. You're going to come on workouts with me, all at the study halls. And so by the time Coach Garrido got back, I'm fully embedded, and we practiced for like a week or two, and then he says, all right, player only meeting, and I'm like, oh man, this is it. And so we had the last meeting of the fall before the spring, before Christmas, and he brings everyone in, and he says, all right, tells us, we're competing for a national championship, and we're gonna have the time of our lives. I remember saying that, and I'm like, oh, how cool. And then he says, but I need to talk to 3 of you guys after this. And then he points, you, and he hits me, you. And I'm like, oh no. And so the first 2 guys go in, and they come out with their heads down, and then they get to me, and I'm like, oh man, well, it's been a good ride. And I walk in, and he sits me down, and he picks up his phone, doesn't say anything, and he calls his assistant, says, Heather, this is Augie. We're gonna add somebody to the roster. And he turns to me and said, hey, what's your name? And no clue. And then I had to fill out that big, huge thing of paperwork again. They just thrown it away. They hadn't even kept it. But that's how I became a member of the 2005 National Championship team. We made it back to the College World Series in 03. We finished third, and then 04 we were the runners-up. And then 05, my teammates really did a hell of a job, and we rallied back for some real adversity. We won the national championship 2005, and I brought, there I am in my old catcher's days, and they even handed me the trophy after the game. Not to brag too much, but I would like to say, so I did set some records at the University of Texas. In my 3 years there, I dressed for over 200 games. And I believe the record I set, I lettered 3 times, I believe the record I set, and I don't think they keep track of this, I believe I was dressed and prepared for more games without playing than any other letterman in the history of the school. And so there I am holding, they gave me the trophy to hold there. My teammates and I, and we elected, like, at the end of the year, we were like captains and stuff, and they elected me the teammate of the year, both that year and the year before, without ever actually playing. But that was what I was giving up when I left, and left that ring. And what had happened is I hurt my back during that season, and then I couldn't continue with military training. And so I ended up getting a degree in creative writing. And, my plan had been to SEAL. I was like pretty heartbroken to just not, because I didn't even get to the chance to try. I was like, that's what I really wanted, And even worse, all those friends of mine, like all these people, that's who they knew me as. And when that ended, it was just like awful. And so my idea was like the only idea I could come up with was like, I'll just completely reinvent myself and start from nowhere. And so I'm at the pawn shop, and I have my car full of stuff, like a little fridge and a 5-speaker surround sound and a portable DVD player and a desktop computer. And I'm walking this stuff in, and I see some of my old teammates hanging out with the girls we'd hang out with from like the tennis team, the volleyball team, and the softball team. And they're all like they're literally having snow cones like around the corner. And I'm like, I want to say hi, And then I'm like, what am I going to tell them I'm doing here? And I decided to leave the next day. And I was like, it was just easier not to tell anybody, But I knew I had to get started somehow. And I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to write about it and like give myself something to write about. But it'd be like, 15 more years before I'd ever like see those people again and be like totally reconnected, because before then it was just awkward, And this is the guy gave me his car, one of my buddies who's was drafted in the first round as the pitcher. And he gave me his car, JP Howell, if you're watching, dude. And that was the car I was driving the pawn shop with all my stuff in it, because I later sold that. And this is one of his favorite songs, actually. Hello there, my old friend. Not so long ago, it's till the end. We played outside in the pouring rain, on our way up the road, and then we started over again. Living our dreams, oh, you're on top. My mind is aching, Lord, it won't stop. So one thing that was really weird is I started out, I was sleeping outside. That was my plan, because I didn't have very much money, which you immediately learn, like, oh my God, that's almost impossible. Like, because in your head, you're like, I'm rolling through the West, and there's like John Wayne on a horse, and I'll just pull over by a tree and sleep. And then when you're on the, like, even rural highways that only took like back roads, everything's owned, dude. I mean, this America, this was 2006, you know? It's like, oh, this is the dumbest idea I've ever had. And so I remember night one having to do this for the first time and be like, I'm sure somebody with a shotgun is going to come and get me. And I'm driving down this dirt road, pull off the highway. It's like pitch black, because from like 6 p.m. I'm looking for the best spot to do this. And until it's like almost midnight, I haven't gotten desperate enough, because there hasn't been a place, you know, of course. And finally, like, here's as good as anywhere. I pull off this dirt road down like a little farm field in East Texas. And you can't see much, you know, because there's no light. It's just kind of a bike headlight. And the bike like hits a pothole I don't see, which I don't know what's going on. And then my luggage from the back comes and hits me on the back of the head, and I fall down. The bike goes down, and I don't know if you ever know much about motorcycles, but the oil, not the oil, but the gasoline will start spilling out. If that happens, it's not good. And then you won't be able to start it for a little while. I didn't know that. I just started. So then I'm riding the bike and trying, oh no, it broke. And I'm out there. I don't even know. At first, I didn't know what hit me. So I thought, like, is somebody chasing me? And then I wait. I'm on the ground, and then you can't get the bike started. And I'm out there, like, about to cry. Like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever done. And of course, like, I didn't really, like, you know, I knew my parents. Like, I knew nobody would just be like, yeah, do it. So I hadn't really told many people at all, other than, like, really basic stuff, you know. So I was out there like, oh crap, like, this is stupid. Like, I'm stuck. And man, all of a sudden I just, like, you know, I'm out. It's kind of beautiful out here, and still, and there are crickets, and, like, it's kind of nice. You know, I don't know how tomorrow is gonna go. I don't know. Maybe I'll wake up, the thing will work. You know. Like, and then, like, hey, there's no one around, and, like, hey, okay, here's what I need to do in my head. And sleep in a sleep bag, no tent. Like, I need to prepare myself. What I'm going to do if somebody wakes me and there's a gun in my face. Because the scariest thing to me isn't that, like, that happened. It's that, like, I'll, like, just piss my pants. And be like, you know? That's what's really scary. Like, you find a snake in my sleeping bag. Like, same thing. So I started rehearsing just that. Of, like, you know, I'll just be cool about it. I'll be calm, and maybe it'll kill me. Who cares? You know? And then as I'm doing that, like it just all cleared up, you know. And the next morning, so the bike started up, and yeah, that wasn't the best, like, way to sleep out, but that's what I did for not just the beginning, the first initial weeks, but throughout the trip. That's what I was doing. And to get back to my friends real quick, like, one of the hardest things to see would be, like, I'd be in New York. One of the jobs I took, you know, I'd be waiting tables or taking out the trash in a restaurant, and I'd see on SportsCenter friends of mine from college, you know, playing the professionals or on the highlight reels, and they'd be like, you know, like, oh yeah, he's making, like, probably making millions of dollars, you know, and here I am, like, and I don't think like any of these people would believe I even knew that guy, you know. It was just such a surreal thing. But, you know, now that I have the shop, like I said, I got back in touch with, like, you know, everybody at a certain point. And now, man, old teammates of mine have come here and helped me paint stuff, build stuff. People bring their kids when they're traveling, you know, and they get lessons from my staff. And I was was gonna play this one last verse from that song. So when I was like on the road, initially, I did have like an idea because I had a creative writing degree, and so I had all these books. I had like heroes, and my biggest hero was this guy named Woody Guthrie. Was one of several heroes, and he was a folk singer, and he traveled around he was like a hobo and by train and boxcar and hitchhiking, all these other things, and they had all these stories about it. And then he'd basically like do shows like this, and it just seemed like the coolest thing because I'd write stories, I'd go to these open mics, so I was traveling around, and I'd be like, oh man, you know, like I'd find out about Woody Guthrie, and I read his book called Bound for Glory, which is like his you know, testimony of a lifetime of doing that. And so I'm in New York City, and I hear this musician playing these songs by this guy named Jerry Jeff Walker, who is like almost like a musical descendant of Woody Guthrie. And and this is in New York, and I'm thinking like, whoa, why is this guy playing Texas country in New York? And I say this because I have somebody to thank for being able to play the little bit of harmonica and the guitar and singing that I can, because I didn't know how to do any of this stuff when I started, and all these things I kind of picked up on the road. And so my buddy Dave McEwen, I met in this bar, and he was singing these Jerry Jeff Walker tunes, and then he played this one song that was an original, and I thought like, man, I gotta be friends with this guy. And so I talked to him afterward, and he showed me this notebook of his original songs. 9 years older than me, and he had dropped out of law school in year 3. So I was 24, he was 33, and he had like 6 figures of debt, but he decided he didn't want to be an attorney, he wanted to be a musician. And so he was working as a waiter, and we became very good friends. And he played 9 instruments. He played the guitar, the dobro, the mandolin, the fiddle, the electric guitar. Man, I'm going to leave some of them out, the auto harp. And I say this because I would say go stay with him, and that's all he owned. That, and he had few enough clothes that he could put his clothes in his instrument cases, and he'd travel that way. And all his furniture was music stands like this. And that was Dave, and he became like a hero of mine. I thought, man, if I become this guy in 9 years, I have won, dude. Like, this guy's still doing it, you know? And he's working as like a waiter. He's like, gets no respect, but he's just like a killer performer, you know? And so me and that guy became friends. And then he started helping me do shows, and he'd go like behind me. And then I had like a little act, you know? And so I would write my like little stories about working places, and then I go to these open mics with Dave, and we do these things, and then we got this little act together. We started doing little shows, and we got a little bit of press from it, and I was able to use that to then get some like go get press in another city and do another free show there, you know, and get some bookings that way. And that became like essentially what I was doing professionally. Um, Dave taught me so much of that stuff, but you know, everything I learned on the road like that. Not just Dave. I want to bring this guy, Jesse King. So in State 33 in Idaho, I meet this guy Jesse King, and he's the local pot dealer. And he meets me because there's an article about me in the local paper, and I'm doing a little show at the bar. And at that time, I couldn't do the music, so I was just doing this, you know, a cappella, or just talking, basically, you know. And anyway, he befriends me and brings me in, and this guy knows everybody because it's early 2000s, mid 2000s rather. And back then, to be a pot dealer especially in Idaho, you were like one of two people. You were like this super, like gregarious, like beloved, like incredibly ethical, because to have like repeat customers, to be beloved like that, or you were just some scumbag on the run. And I don't know if you guys remember what like, the market used to be in the day, but Jesse King, I mean, this was a man called Jesse King. I should preface that, and because I got to know Jesse Kings all over the country, man. But Jesse King told me I could use his name, and because Jesse King saw the world like so differently, and so he told me I could use his name because I told him like, well, one of the hardest things now, is getting this kind of publicity. I'm doing all of it, and I can reach out, and people don't respond as well because I'm me, but if I had like a representation, and that became really important with me. So through the years, I sort of built up this little following, little career with the help of people like that. And I got to know people like that all over the country and people in the sort of underground economy that way. And I mean, I'm still in touch with these people to this day. I bring this up because I ended up moving back. I ended up in San Francisco. I meet a girl. 9 days later, we elope. Uh, At this point, I'm writing for a legal publication there, like a periodical, and it's going great, man. It's like the best 4 months of my life. Uh, but then the last 2 months, because we were married for 6 months, legally for 12, but then she wanted to have a kid, and I wanted to have a kid. Oh, I still want to have a kid, but I was like, I'm married to what I'm doing, like serious about it, and I was like, oh no, I thought you wanted to have a kid, like. Well, first of all, she looked 19. I was 25. She looked 19. And it turned out she was 34. And that's no big deal. But then when somebody wants to have a kid, you're like, well, that's a big deal. And so I decided, that wouldn't work. And I got in my car. At the time, I had a car. And I left the bike at these days. I drove back. Dave had moved to North Carolina, and he was working for his brother, who got his family got him so hard that he couldn't do this anymore, and he needed to come work for his brother's construction company. So he was doing construction, wasn't even doing music, and so I tell him, hey man, I'm picking you up. We're gonna drive to New York. We're gonna give this another go. And so I go pick him up. I drive for 4 days straight. I sleep for 3 hours at like 3 different truck stops along the way, and pick him up. We go back up to New York, and we make a go of it, man. And he's got his instruments. I'm carrying around the city with him. We're looking for gigs. He's playing everywhere. He becomes like a free sound man at like every club in town, every like place, and he knows every jam and everybody. And man, Dave can play. I mean, just like incredible musician. And so he ends up starting his own band, and then he gets hired by D'Angelo. I don't know if you know who that is, who won 4 Grammys before he passed, and 2 of them were with Dave as his instrument tech, traveling around the world. He did 2 world tours with D'Angelo, fixing all his instruments and doing all that sort of stuff. Did the sound on Saturday Night Live and David Letterman, and then he married a doctor in his band, who then retired just to do music. And Dave would be here now, but he's in Maine. He's picking up a sailboat, and he's going to sail it to their place in New York. And before I just want to thank Dave too much. We're out there doing that. I'm working in theater, and I'm working in theater production. I get hired by the public theater, and then I get to start doing an acting class. I got hired by Zico Coconut Water, which is like a brand new product at the time, to go do a bunch of their like in-person promotional stuff. And then I started getting that kind of work, but like clandestine, like for other people's acts, right? So I saw you like a ghostwriter type thing, and I still have NDAs. I can't talk about who I worked for, what I did, but basically versions of sort of something like this, right? For small audience, big audience, but for other people. So I was doing that, and the book was coming out. This was 2014, and Jesse King was serving as my agent still. And I actually stayed with him on the book tour, and the tour was okay. It's so I had like a little following across the country, which I still do, like a couple thousand people from a mailing list 20 years ago. And I did the tour of those towns, but at the same time I was doing these gigs. for other people, and I have to fly back and forth, fly one day to the other thing, and I'd show up to book things, and people would say, "Oh, you're Jesse King here to bring this stuff in," and like he couldn't make it. I just here alone, I'm back, and then I'd go do these other things, and I couldn't be myself. I'd just be speaking mostly as Jesse King to set these things up, and then a little bit as myself, and then go back and do work for other people and other corporations. And so I was highly inspired by everyone I worked with. And I want to give credit to this man real quick, because at that time I worked for this guy. And this guy was so inspiring. And he changed my life in so many ways. And his name is Craig Welburn. And Craig Wilburn is an amazing guy. He owns, and when I knew him, he owned 63. This man, he owns 63 McDonald's. This guy did. He owns 63 McDonald's, and I worked for him and a bunch of other franchisees. But I personally was really highly affected by how he ran his company, and to the fact that this day people will say, like, you can't find people to open at 6:30. Like, Craig Welburn, 63 McDonald's, half a dozen open 24 hours. And if you ever go to McDonald's in Northern Virginia, or if you did it this time, and the employees were happy and extremely well trained, and extremely nice, and all like the place was clean, and you're like, this is the best McDonald's I've ever been to. That is a Craig Welburn McDonald's. I worked for him and his family, and they were super helpful to me. But working for him in McDonald's and being like showbiz adjacent, I'd go do these gigs. And then people would say, "Oh, are you Jesse King?" And I'd show up for the book deal, and they'd be like, "Oh, no, I'm not Jesse King." And then I'd go do stuff for the Welburn family, and of course I get there like 2 hours before McDonald's event that I've set up or whatever, and then people would be like, "Oh, are you Ronald McDonald?" And so I brought this for fact to prove that this is what Ronald McDonald looked like. It doesn't look like me. I, for the record, never, no one other than Ronald has ever been Ronald, and that would be impossible. Just for clear fact to everybody and to the lawyers and my friends back at McDonald's headquarters. That's right, guys. Only Ronald can be Ronald. I love Ronald McDonald. It's a pleasure to get to meet this wonderful corporate leader, and man, Ronald's effect on people is just outstanding. But as I was saying, I go from one environment to another with people being like, "Are you Jesse King? Are you Ronald McDonald?" And very brief periods of my life, then I'd go on to get to be me, Pack, and I knew something needed to change. But around that time, cannabis laws changed around the country, all almost at once. They changed in Washington, D.C., where Mr. Welburn had all his McDonald's, and where I was extremely frequently, where I grew up, and also all over the country. In Oregon, they changed it in Michigan around the same time as Colorado and Massachusetts. I know because Jesse King started setting up my book releases and my signings, because in all these states for like the first couple of years, you couldn't sell cannabis. It was legal to have it, possess it, use it, and to give it away. But to sell it, you needed to, you couldn't sell it. But if there was like an event and, someone was signing books for like $200, and man, that's when Jesse King came in, man. And I knew people in all those places. I've been there. And so that became my second book tour with the first book. And I was all set then to leave and change that life, and to not like change that life, but to leave the life I was describing, going to events and being somebody else, speaking for somebody else, and not getting to be myself. And I saw Ronald McDonald, and I thought, man, that would be cool if, like, in real life, somebody was that. Right? They got to represent a business and be like the positive side of everything about it, you know? And that was the role, like, because Ronald kind of owns McDonald's, the only person that's been there that long, like, And if you ever see Ronald at one of these events, he's in charge, man. Even like the CEO will look to Ronald, put his arm around him, be like, "Hey, how you doing?" Even Mr. Welper, So I was, man, wouldn't it be cool if that was like real life? And that's why I wanted like a business like that. So I decided I would take my book earnings and I would buy a coffee shop, did live music and poetry readings, and I was talking to a girl back in Texas, and where I dated her, and she just had a kid from somebody else, Well, I was like, all right, this could work, and I wasn't talking to anybody because nobody knew about like all these lives of mine, very much, and so I didn't have much of a personal life except this person, my one outlet. And so I decided I'd move down there and buy this place near her. I bought it in Bastrop, Texas. So the week I was set to move down there, I stopped hearing from her. She stops texting. I call, she doesn't answer. A couple days go by. Finally, it's the day to leave, and she doesn't answer, and I'm like, what am I gonna do? And so I decide instead I'm gonna fly to Los Angeles and I'm gonna go surfing because that would be better. And I used to grow up, come to visit my dad, and and I learned to surf when I was 11 years old because my dad lived in an apartment like a couple blocks from Venice Beach. And after my mom got me a lesson, then when he would go to work all day for that 1 week a year I visited, I would go to the beach and go surfing all day. And so I thought that's what I'll do. And I came and I went surfing, and then a friend was like, "Hey, meet me in El Porto." I said, Where's that?" I'd never heard of El Porto. Never heard of El Porto. I never been to El Porto. Uh, so I was like, "But I don't have gear because I never owned a surfboard. I never lived at a beach. I've been surfing since I was 11 years old, and I never lived at a beach. Never bought a surfboard." So he tells me, there's a shop there, and so I Airbnb in the neighborhood from a lady who then became my bookkeeper. And I forgot to invite Monica. Well, Monica, if you see this, uh, but so I Airbnb there, and I rented a board from this shop, and it did not look like this. It was like a dusty old shop. I have some pictures here, and you're gonna be like, "Well, we can't really see anything." You're like, "Well, pretty much, yeah, that's it." It was like you couldn't really even find it. It was just kind of a nondescript place, and I came in, and there's an old guy working here, or oldish, like a 60, and he wasn't very friendly, and he like didn't really care, and the place was kind of like looked that way. And I thought, man, like this guy probably owns this business. Like, you think that works? Like, cool. Like, this guy probably just goes surfing all the time, and like, I can't believe this place exists. And I asked him, like, how's this place stay in business? He said it's been here 20 years. He's been doing this. And I thought, man, like that might be the one thing that would be cooler. And so I I like, "Hey, you know, would you consider selling this place?" And he goes, "I just put it on the market this morning."
No.
And then he tells me his asking price, which was the exact same price the coffee shop I was about to buy. And I was like, "All right, if you can promise me this place, like, prove to me this place is in the black. Like, doesn't need to make much money, just is making some money. So I'm not gonna like lose more money when I buy. I will buy it from your asking price, no negotiation." And we shook on it before I rented the surfboard. And that was the day I came in here to rent a surfboard. Yeah, and this song's for Dave, my old roommate there. It's actually one of his songs, man. And that's how Dave's play for it now. Lately I've been wearing thin, been to hell and back again. Smoked too much, been drinking too much booze. But I don't know where to go, maybe north to Alaska, down to Mexico. Find a pretty senorita who ain't got no tattoos. My reputation's been getting the best of me. Oh, everybody's talking that shit, but they don't know. Just take some time out and maybe you'll see. I like to take life in the fast lane a little bit slow. Can't give you a reason to believe anything I'm saying. If the stories are true, I've been lying straight to your face. I don't know what to tell you, but I appreciate you staying, cause it took me a while to get myself back in this place. It definitely did. Thank you, Dave McEwen. My reputation's been getting the best of me. Oh, everybody talks that shit that they don't know. take life in the fast lane a little bit slow. Yeah, gotta take life in the fast lane a little bit slow. Dave never wanted to put that song out, man. He never put that song out. I mentioned he played 9 instruments. So if you Google Dave McKeown Wearing Thin, you'll find a recording of that song on Reverb Nation. He plays all 9 instruments. Yeah, wow. And I couldn't do any of this without things I learned from Dave and Jesse King and the Jesse Kings of this world, and Mr. Craig Welburn and his family, who did so much for me, and I was so lucky to work for. You know, I came here and I had 2 options. It was like, one, I could kind of hide and do this business, and that kind of be cool, like witness protection style. You know, it's like a fantasy. It's like, oh, I could just hide out here forever. And actually, I kind of considered it maybe the first couple of years, and then it dawned on me like, oh, I'm going to lose this property if I don't maximize it and make it like earn its keep. Because this is, you know, I've been to every state in the country. This is some of the most prime real estate in America right here. It's oceanfront property, literally, and it happens to be in front of one of the most consistent surf breaks in North America, and a place you can surf every day of the year. And if you look around behind you, you'll see a map up there of where all of our rental customers come from. And so I thought, you know, if we do this and do it right, what I want to do, my vision when I bought this place was to travel back to all those places that customers come from. We had over 90 countries come in 2025 alone, and all 50 states, customers from there renting surfboards. So my goal was to go back and go to all those places and to write journals about it, like I did in this book of my journals, the motorcycle going through all 48 states, all the people I met and the jobs I worked, and the journey that helped me lead here. And I really appreciate everybody coming here and everybody sitting through this thing. And wasn't so bad, was it? Oh. So we started out, but God knows where. I guess I'll know when